Welcome to Satsang.
Hello, Vishrant. Can you please talk about the topic? What is it like to live as awareness?
Okay. If you've had Satoris, you'll have an understanding to some degree because you'll have some reference points as to what it's like to live as beingness. If you haven't had Satoris, if you've heard about them or studied them, you probably don't have the reference points required. But the mind is what most people think they are, and they believe they are the body as a result. But there's something that is purely aware of the mind, and it is always here, but rarely do people actually see it. Rarely does awareness become aware of itself. If it does, it's called Satori. Someone who's awake is living as that awareness. They're no longer living as an I or a body. They're living as or existing, that's a better way of putting it, as awareness, pure awareness, which is what we all are. We are all pure awareness. But there's a belief, which is not real, that we are the mind and body. And so someone who's awake is simply living as reality, living as pure awareness. And one of the beauties of that is it can't be touched by anything. The mind, on the other hand, the ego, on the other hand, can be touched by just about everything. But what we truly are doesn't get touched by anything. It's never born, it cannot die. And so the quest for the seeker is to find themselves as pure awareness and live as that. That is enlightenment if it's ongoing. It is quantumly different than living as an ego. In existing as pure awareness, the mind, it's dropped anyway. It doesn't want to talk to itself. It rests in beingness. The identification that it has with being a somebody is gone because there's nobody here. You take away your imagination and you take away your ego, because the ego is made up of imagination. It's made up of reference points from the past projected to the future and a few belief systems. You take away your imagination and the ego that you think you are is not here because it's not real. What you are is still here. Pure awareness is still here, but it's not personal. So the whole quest for freedom, the whole quest for enlightenment is to know self as pure awareness or truth and exist as that, aware of itself. And so the games begin. How do you turn awareness back to itself? How do you find yourself as truth? Find yourself someone who's awake and go and sit with them. Practice self-inquiry, practice meditation, practice openness. In the presence of someone who's awake, it's much easier to find yourself as truth. The energy field of someone who's awake starts to expand the mind, starts to dissolve it to some degree, starts to take you into no mind. Any meditator who's worth their salt knows no mind through meditation practice. Yet, even though there's no mind, nobody thinking, no thinking at all, you're still there. What is it that is still there? What is it that is aware of the no mind? find that and be free. And then you recognized the illusion of imprisonment and the illusion of freedom, because you have always been beingness, always been pure awareness, pure consciousness. So how does an awake person live? Here. Always here. Any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to this teaching today?
Did you have to be living always here before your awakening?
Pretty much. The practice of meditation teaches you to live in the moment rather than in dream. Most human adults live in dream to a large degree. In other words, awareness, aware of thinking. Someone who's a practiced meditator is more present to what is real, because the understanding is clear. What you think is not real. Maybe what you see is real, what you hear is real, but what you think is not. And so before awakening, present moment awareness was quite profound, because there wasn't much interest in dreaming. There was more of an interest in reality. Meditation, the practice of meditation, teaches you how to witness the mind and teaches you how to see through the mind so you don't get caught in its obstacles. It's very beautiful in that way. Present moment awareness, or the power of now, is being present to what is real. The only thing that is not real is what you think.
Is it useful to have an intellectual understanding that we are pure awareness?
Yep, that's a good. The intellectual understanding that we're pure awareness can give you the motivation that you require to find the real thing for yourself. To have, rather than intellectual understanding, a direct knowing as a result of awareness being aware of itself. And so anything that fires up the thirst for truth is worthy. So an intellectual understanding could fire up the thirst for truth. On the other hand, it could make someone complacent because they might think they already understand it, already know it. Unless you're living as pure awareness, you don't know much, not really. Borrowed knowledge or old knowledge or memory is pretty worthless. It's still dream. Pure awareness is always here. It is not a dream. When it is aware of itself, it is enlightenment. It is not a dream. It is not an understanding. It is not a remembering. It is awareness, aware of itself in this moment.
The following question is from a viewer on YouTube who asks, Namaste Vishrant Ji, how do you know that your enlightenment is real and not a delusion? As Muji Baba, disciple of Papaji, does not seem to be enlightened at all. The same said by David Godman.
Yeah. The only way that you can tell if someone is awake is by the butterfield that surrounds them. There is no other way, because anyone can say the right words. Anyone can have the right hand gestures, the right mannerisms. If someone is awake, they have a butterfield, and that butterfield can be felt. It flattens the mind out to some degree and expands the mind, and it is very beautiful to be in. If that butterfield is not there, the person is not awake. No matter what they say, they are not awake. For someone who is truly enlightened, that butterfield is there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Can the butterfield be imagined by the mind or held in memory in a way?
Oh, anything can be imagined. People can imagine love. They can imagine silence. They can imagine stillness. They can imagine anything. The mind is wonderful at imagining. And so someone might imagine that they're enlightened. They might imagine that their mind is still. They might imagine that they're loving. But energy doesn't lie. Anybody that is loving has a loving energy field. Anybody that's awake has a Buddha field, and it can be perceived. And if it's not there, they're not awake. Tune in.
The following question is from Beck on Facebook. There's two questions. I'll read the first one. Hi Vish, can you please describe what was happening with your relationships as your consciousness was reaching higher levels?
Yeah. One of the beautiful things that happened as a result of consciousness levels rising was obstacles were being removed. Belief systems were being undone. Defense systems were being undone. And because of that, an enormous amount of love was being perceived, because love seems to appear or is perceived more easily in openness. And as a result of that, there was a lot of love. But at the same time, because consciousness levels were rising and awareness was aware of itself, relationships were a little difficult. Great deal of love, but no person. The I had dropped, and so there was nothing really personal. A lot of love, but nothing personal. So 21 years ago, when awakening first occurred, there wasn't a sense of being a human anymore, let alone a father or a husband. It had just gone out the window. The ego had dropped. There's a sense of nothing or nobody being here. And so relationship was a little difficult, not from the perspective of here, but from the perspective of the other. Because after a week or two, I remember or I recall my wife saying, I have lost my husband. And I couldn't deny it, because the one that had been the husband had surrendered unconditionally, and there was now an absence of that one. Yet I was still here, but I as pure awareness, the I, not the little I. And this is what we all are. We are this big I, or this I. The little I, the ego, drops, it disappears, and so does its connection with the world to a large degree. So I'm here, but I'm not of here. Not really. I'm in this world, but I'm not of it. If you come and sit with me, you'll find the emptiness. You'll find the silence. You'll find the stillness, because it's here. And what you're starting to perceive is your own true nature, which is pure awareness and is always here. And so relationships can be a little difficult, though there is a lot of love. And when love is present, everybody and everything is taken care of.
The follow-on question is, were there any relationships that didn't survive as a result?
Most of them. Did relationships survive? It's difficult to be with someone who's free, because in a lot of ways they're not here anymore. In a lot of ways they've gone. The chair is actually empty. There's a lot of love, but there's not much person. And so it is difficult, but possible. But all the relationships left, except maybe the relationship with my daughters. That's still there. But it's the funniest thing, really, because the love that is there for them is the same love that is there for everybody else. This idea of personal love is only achieved by a sense of being a somebody, a sense of being an I. But that I is not real. And upon enlightenment, that I drops. So this personal drops. And so there's still love, but there's nobody loving. There's still caring, but there's nobody caring. There's still taking care, but there's nobody taking care. If you've had a Satori or two, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Otherwise, it'll just be intellectual, and you need to find out. What is this that's aware? What is my true nature? This is the question the seeker asks. Who am I really?
The next question is from a viewer. Is care equal to love?
No. No, the mind can be caring without love. The mind can be helpful without love. Love is amazing. It's the true jewel of consciousness. And how it affects the mind is very beautiful. But for it to affect the mind has to be open. It can't be defended. It can't really be closed. It can't be in resistance to life, because all of those things cut off the perception of love. It's up to you. How open are you? How closed are you? How defended are you? If you're interested in love, open up. Drop your defenses. Wear your heart on your sleeve where it belongs. And yeah, you'll probably get hurt, but that's the price for loving. That's the price for perceiving love. All our defense systems that stop us from getting hurt are absolute obstacles in the way of love. They create us as separate.
The next question is from Kelly on YouTube. Does your butterfield affect the other person who is driving a car?
Yes. I'm very, very careful with who I let drive me anywhere, because some people get very ungrounded in the energy field, and ungrounded people behind the wheel of a car are dangerous. And so, yes, the people in the car get affected, the driver included. And so I'm careful. I remember I was doing satsangs down south for a while, 160 kilometers away, and I had a woman drive me. And I started to notice how ungrounded she was getting, and it was time to change drivers. I remember when I sat with Osho, Rajneesh, back in the 80s, I used to get so out there. It was like I was walking on air. And this is what happens around someone who's got a Buddha field. You get ungrounded. So I have problems with cashiers. I go to pay and they're counting the money over and over again because they keep losing their minds. This is what happens. It's just how it is. The Buddha field is very beautiful, but it definitely can affect people quite strongly.
The next question has been asked by Beck. Are there any outer obstacles to higher consciousness, such as anger directed towards you in response to boundaries placed?
Only if you react, otherwise no. What happens outside of you is irrelevant. It's your reaction to what happens outside of you that is relevant to you. If there is no reaction, perfect. If there's a reaction of contraction, constriction, defensiveness, well, you've taken yourself into lower consciousness. It's all about how you react or how you do not react. And usually that's related to how conscious you are and what belief systems you're running, what kind of expectations you have on those belief systems. And so the work that needs to be done to support enlightenment is the work of the mind to make itself equanimous so it doesn't react by contracting and going down the chute. It stays open, which is a non-reaction. And this is very beautiful, to have a mind that is non-reactive. But that's up to you. Only you can create that because you're responsible 100% for your reactions.
Next, we have Art, who would like to ask a question.
Hello, Art.
Hi, Vishrant. I wanted to make a couple comments about the butterfield and ask about relationships. So I know they have measured brain waves, so I'm not at all skeptical that it's a thing, but it seems to have been affecting my wife quite a bit. And we were driving back yesterday, and I said, Vishrant claims it can go up to 1 kilometer, which I'm pretty skeptical about. And she goes, oh no, I'm sure it can. And then at one point I said, now I saw recently that as people become more aware of awareness, or even are in the presence of a Buddha field a lot, it can be very scary for them. I think because it highlights that who we think we are doesn't have the solidity and reality that we think. And I said to her that I think it can even be scary. And she really jumped on that and said, yes, it can be scary. And I guess it's unsettling, and anything unsettling can be scary. Our relationship is still good. And actually, she had some health problems. And when they turned out to be everything solid and good, she felt a lot better. I've even heard people can almost feel like they're dying when they get close to enlightenment because the ego is dying. So I'm wondering about, well, really two things. How my capacity to function will change. You've talked about that. Also, how my ability to relate to people will change, which we're talking about now. But you seem very normal, and we've had many conversations, and I'm a little bit surprised to hear that you lost all these friends, and why would that be? That really surprised me that you just said that.
For the first 6 months after awakening, Art, I sat still in a chair 18 hours a day and stared into space. Because there was nothing inside of me that was moving. My mind was resting in beingness, blissed out. It wasn't until one of my Advaita Vedanta teachers came along and said, look, you've got to come out of here and start being in the world, that I came out. And then I had to learn to be human again, because I didn't blink. My mind wasn't working. It was silent. And so socially I was inept. I had to learn to look away when I talk to people. I had to learn to blink. I had to learn to behave like a human again, because I was so gone. And so you're meeting me today, 21 years later, where I've had a lot of practice pretending to be a human, because beingness is not human.
So that's a concern to me, because I don't know how to gauge how close I am, but I certainly spend a lot of hours, and and it's true, I can't function well. I certainly spend a lot of hours just in the truth. And if I were to let go of these final fears, I have this notion that I have to worry about things, and I'm starting to realize that just isn't true.
If you're willing to
But
give, if you're willing to surrender everything, you can be free. Anything you try holding on to, and fear is all about holding on, that will keep you away from enlightenment. So for
almost,
me, the hardest thing for me to actually surrender and give up really was my children. But I had to, so I did. Not that I ever went away from them, that never occurred, but the attachment to them had to be dropped.
okay.
When we look at attachment, it's all future orientated anyway. It's about what we want for the future, what we're hanging on to for the future. And that has to be dropped as well, because that's not real either. The future's not real. Attachments are imprisonments. They keep us suffering. And so to truly be free, we need to let go of everything. But we don't have to physically leave it. It's like some things left and some things stayed. Some things came back after they left. But there was such freedom in not hanging on to anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, you've got to look at it. What hangs on? What's hanging on? It's the ego. It's the I that's hanging on. Of course, while it's hanging on, awareness stays on the I, and so you may be flip flopping. In other words, awareness may be going to itself from time to time, and then back to the ego that's hanging on. You really want to be free. You've got to let go. No future.
Well, it almost makes me wonder if I need to plan for being non-functional for months. I mean, I have no idea how close I am, so there's that. But
You
if I
have
were
to.
to,
Can I? You got to be okay with everything failing.
okay,
If
sure.
you can be okay with everything failing, you can be free.
The addiction to worry is there's almost a chemical juice from it, and then the second part is there's a belief that it's necessary and useful,
Well, it's
and
good for survival.
it's just not.
Well, it is good for survival, but awakening is not about survival. The ego is all about survival. What we are, pure awareness, doesn't need to survive because it was never born and it cannot die. Survival belongs to the mind. If the mind is willing to let go, if it's willing to die, you can know yourself as truth instead of as this thing that wants to survive.
Yeah. And the whole long story and everything I've been through is not going to be me anymore if I cross the line.
That's true.
Wow.
You're here now. And this is all that's real. Nothing else is real. Everything else is imagined outside this moment. Is there anything else, Art?
No, thanks for everything.
Good to talk to you, Art.
Yes, sir.
The next question has been written by Daisy on YouTube. Can you speak on the subconscious mind and if you think using it as a tool is good?
Well, because it's subconscious, usually you're not conscious of it. In developing a silent witness that witnesses the mind through the practice of meditation, you can start to see deeper and deeper and deeper layers of the mind. So what is subconscious, what is unconscious gets to be exposed. And so you start seeing the nuts and the bolts of how the mind works, all its hidden agendas, all its belief systems, all its defense systems, all its lies. But because you can now see, you can do something about it. And the thing that we do about it is we undo it. And so it is no longer in the way. Satsang is really a process of undoing, not a process of building up or becoming bigger, better, and more powerful. That's personal growth. Satsang is an unlearning process, so you can be free.
The following question is from Roxana on YouTube, who asks, what is the butterfield?
The best way to find out is to find someone who's awake and go and sit with them. And then get as close as you can to them, become silent inside yourself, and perceive the energy that is in the room. The energy that is in a room is called a butterfield, and it is produced when awareness is aware of itself inside a human being. In other words, when you're sitting with someone who's enlightened, they have an energy field. In Christianity, they say the saints have halos. Well, that halo is a little bit like a Buddha field. Someone who's awake has a Buddha field, a field of energy that can be perceived by those who are sensitive. And this energy field has the ability to expand the mind, expand the heart, and take you into reality. But best way to find out is go sit with someone who's awake and get as close as you can. And if you can engage them in conversation, engage them in conversation. Because when you're talking directly to someone who's awake, the field of energy is stronger.
Next question has been written by Beck. Does Satori produce a temporary Buddha field?
Yes. And so some satsang teachers actually can sit for an hour and self-inquire and find themselves in beingness, as beingness, and then hold satsang. But these people aren't fully awake. They're half-baked enlightened. They're flip-floppers. They're going from ego-based reality to being-based reality and then back again. And so there's something in them that is not completely surrendered. There's something in them that's not complete yet. So someone who has a Satori, while that Satori is occurring, will have a Buddha field. Yes.
The next question is from a viewer. If someone had a Satori, would it be obvious to the person having it?
No, not necessarily, because Satori's range from very, very small to very, very big. You can suddenly find yourself as stillness and silence. It's a small Satori, very small. Or you could find yourself as the universe and every particle in it, very big. Or you could find yourself as absolutely nothingness, big. Best way to find out is to self-inquire, asking the question, who's aware or what's aware? See if you can't turn awareness back to itself and get a glimpse. Or in deep meditation, same. Practice is what works. We're very practiced at living as an ego. Practice finding what is aware of the ego, what's aware of the mind, what's aware of the thoughts. Practice that.
The next question has been written by a viewer. Is reiki similar to being close to a butterfield?
No. It's an energy field that's produced, but it's not the same. It's not similar at all. No.
You were speaking about being ungrounded in a Buddha-field. What do you mean by ungrounded? And is it possible to not get ungrounded in the Buddha-field?
Yes, it is. And so people can be grounded in different forms of reality. We can be grounded in our minds, which is not a good place to be grounded because it's unstable. We can be grounded in our bodies, which is much more stable because it's more real. And so when we have awareness locked in our body, and if you shake hands with an athlete or someone who works physically with their hands, you'll find that their energy field is in their hands, it's in their body. And these people are grounded in their body. Most people tend to be grounded more in their minds. When you come into the presence of someone who's awake, if you're grounded in your mind and the mind starts expanding, or you lose your grounding, you become ungrounded. If you're grounded in your body, it's easier because awareness is still with what's real, the body. For someone who's ungrounded, we're usually referring to someone who's actually not functioning well in the mind, because they're not in touch with reality in any source, at any source. They're not in touch with the body, they're not in touch with beingness, they're just gone. Being ungrounded is not good if you're driving a car. It's not good if you're riding a push bike. It's not good if you're trying to have a conversation with someone. It's best to be grounded. And so one of the things that I got into was walking, what I called walking in Zen. And that's where you walk and you put your awareness in your body. You put your awareness in your footfalls. You put awareness in your breath. And you put awareness all around you as well, like in the sounds around you, the wind, the sun on you, the sound, everything around you. And in that way, you're not putting awareness on thoughts, because to have awareness on everything else, you can't think. Now, if you're walking in Zen, you've got your awareness in your body, because you've got your awareness on your footfalls. So you're practicing keeping awareness in the body, and you become very grounded in the body rather than grounded in the mind. And being grounded in the body rather than grounded in the mind is a lot easier in the world in a lot of ways, because you're not caught in dream. You're being real. You're not caught in imaginings, in thoughts. You're just here. Now, this is not awake, but it's aware of what is real rather than what is not. And so meditation, walking meditation, even sitting meditation, allows you to be aware of what is real. Unfortunately, most people think what they think is real, but there's nothing real about what you think. It's imagined. Look around you and what you see is real. What you hear is real. Maybe what you feel is real, but what you think about it is not. And so being grounded in the body allows you to have a more realistic life before awakening.
The next question is from a viewer. Can you talk more about being grounded and the importance of that for enlightenment?
I don't know if it's important for enlightenment. I was very, very into being grounded in my body for 20 years before awakening occurred. I loved reality. I loved being present to what is real. I didn't have much time for dreaming, because I saw it as a place where people suffered in their minds, imagining all sorts of things that were real that were not. And so my whole adventure in this lifetime has been very much of one of who's being present in reality. I loved diving. I loved racing cars. I loved racing motorbikes. I loved sport. I loved martial arts. I loved anything that took me into my body and out of my head. And I think that because of that, it was actually an aid to awareness being aware of itself, because I was used to being with what is real and I had no interest in what I was thinking. And so I'd already, to some degree, surrendered the thinking mind. It was being used as a tool rather than just as a constant chatter, 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 chatter. I loved to see the nature. I loved to feel my footfalls. I loved to feel my body. I loved to dance, actually, because you're in your body. But unfortunately, we all go to school and we learn how to live in our heads. We didn't live there before we went to school. We were actually in reality to a large degree before we went to school. And then we went to school and we learned to live in our heads so we could remember things and pass examinations. But for most adults, they never leave that. They remain living in their heads as problem solvers until the day they die, rather than getting back into reality, which is at a basic level the body. At an ultimate level, awareness aware of itself, because that is the ultimate reality. That is who we are.
The following question is from Daisy on YouTube. I've been hearing about a progressive path and direct path in self-inquiry. Can they be practiced simultaneously or no?
I would need to have you explain what direct path and progressive path is, because I'm not familiar with it. My understanding of self-inquiry is really, really simple. You inquire who's aware and find awareness as yourself. I'm not sure what progressive path is. You'd have to explain it to me. It sounds like some teachers set up some kind of way of teaching that is his style or her style that I'm not familiar with.
The following question is from a viewer. Isn't putting awareness on real things kind of opposite from the goal of awareness on nothingness?
In a way, but it's way better to have awareness on real things than having awareness on a dream that is not real, and everything you think is not real. And because of the way we've been programmed, more than likely what you're putting awareness on is a problem-solving machine that worries and gets upset. Wouldn't it be better to have awareness on what is real and then turn awareness back to what is ultimately real, our own true self? So if you were to meet me personally and you shook my hand, which I don't do much anymore, but if you did, you would find that the awareness is actually in the body. It's not just on itself. So awareness is in the body. It's also on itself. And because of that, I can be in the world quite strongly. If awareness was just on itself, it would be difficult to be in the world.
The next question has been written by Savvy. Is every Satori different? The mind tends to remember the last one and hold on to it, or look for the same experience. Should that be avoided?
It's going in and coming out of Satori that is different. Satori itself, we are nothing. There's absolutely nothing here, and there's everything here. And this can't be understood. It can only be known directly. But it is always the same. The same as someone who's awake has a butterfield, and that butterfield will be the same as anybody else who's awake, because beingness is like the ocean. No matter what part of the ocean you go to, it's still salty. It's the same. And so don't worry about changes. Don't worry about differences. Just keep looking for self as truth. Self-inquire until there is no one left to inquire.
What is the difference, if any, between the ultimate reality or truth that teachers speak about and pure awareness?
None. It's the same. As a matter of fact, everything is truth. Everything. Everything is God. It's just that most people aren't aware of that. They're aware of their mind, and through the mind, their senses, and so they miss the big picture. The big picture is we are this, we are everything. This is the big picture. The small picture is I am a somebody, which is actually not even real. Yet, truthfully, we are that too, but we're also everyone else. Beingness is everything. It's not separate from anything. There is no separation in beingness. There is only one.
What was it about the nature of awareness that was attractive to you?
You heard about curiosity killing the cat. I found that I was very curious as to what was up the top of the mountain. Once I climbed the mountain and found what was at the top, my mind fell in love with it and decided to die for it.
How long do you have to practice being aware of awareness before it comes naturally to you?
Before it becomes a default pattern, stuck on, like awareness gets locked onto itself like two permanent magnets. Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea why that actually happened for me. I have no idea, really. It just happened. One day, I found myself as pure awareness without anybody here 21 years ago, and it's just been like that for 21 years. You could say that a lot of work was done to produce a mind that would support that, but I think there's more involved than that. I think there's something to do with karma. Sometimes gurus refer to it as grace, but I think it's karma.
The following question is from a viewer. When you were a psychologist and you were crying with your clients, did you find that you cried less as belief systems were uninstalled?
It wasn't so much the belief systems being uninstalled that stopped the crying. What stopped the crying was the end of the pain body that was being released, the end of the sadness that was inside of me being released. I had, like most other human adults, pain bodies that I'd carried from lifetime to lifetime. And as they were emptied as a result of allowing myself to fully feel them, there was just nothing left after a while. Not much to do with belief systems, more to do with a willingness to actually feel.
The next question has been written by Craig. Your bhakti path of service to and love of others, is this a response to your egoic past as a highly competitive person? Would your expression of truth be different if you came to beingness as a less dynamic personality?
Look, the reason I am the way I am in the world is totally resultant from love being perceived. When love is perceived by the mind, it just wants to take care of everyone and everything. This is how love affects the mind. It's very beautiful. And so that's it. That's the bottom line. It's love. Nothing else. Not because of this path or that path, but simply because there's enough openness for love to be perceived pretty much constantly while I'm out here. And as a result of that, there's this, what can I do for you? How can I help you? How can I lift you? And it's beautiful.
Sometimes I feel that the dream of a future is what is making me want to live in this world. Why would this be the case?
Because the now is awful. Look, if you really open your eyes and you have a look around, you'll notice that just about everyone is suffering one way or another, or they're finding a way to escape their suffering, whether it's alcohol, food, duoholism. Everybody's trying to get away from their pain. And so when you really open your eyes and you have a look at the world and you have a look at yourself, you see that everyone's suffering. It's tragic. It's best to get free. It's best to get out of the dream that keeps you away from the suffering that's here, because the dream's not real. While you're dreaming, you're not living. You're existing in a dream that's not real. You're wasting this beautiful life. Stop dreaming and be with what's real. You will have to deal with what's inside of you, and you will actually see what's actually happening around you. The dream, in a way, or the future projections that we live in, keep us away from a lot of things. Hope is the great enemy of enlightenment, same as fear is, because they're both future projections that have nothing to do with reality. They keep us locked in a dream. Quite often, if you go to a Buddhist temple, you'll notice above the door, abandon hope. Abandon all hope. Because hope is seen for what it is, a dream. It's actually in the way of being present to the moment, present to what is real. Have a look for yourself and see. Abandon all hope, abandon all fear. What is real?
The next question has been written by Daisy. Can you speak on life's problems such as poverty and pain not being able to last long once enlightened?
I'm not sure actually what you're asking me, because look, if you're living in the moment and you're not living in your head, there's no problems. The only problem comes in when there's an I present. If there's no I, there's no problems. It's just what is in the moment. You can stay cool because you're not dreaming. But I'm not sure what you're asking me there. It's not very clear to me. It's not like you wake up and you don't feel pain. You still feel pain, but you're not resisting it anymore. You don't have a story about it anymore. It's just what is. The same as there might be bliss. It's just what is.
When I come into the present moment fully and let go of constant thinking, I often find myself not feeling very nice. Why is this?
More than likely, you've been using some form of escape by doing or moving or dreaming to avoid what's inside of you. And when you stop doing those escape methodologies, what's inside of you starts to surface, and it's unpleasant. It feels unpleasant. This is what I refer to as wounding, what Jung referred to as the dark night of the soul. And all seekers have to go through it to get free. You have to empty the house. So I love the analogy of the house being full and no room for God to live in the house being the body, the vehicle. Empty the house. Empty the house and become sattvic so God can live here. It's only an analogy, but in a way it's true. Empty the house and there's no more problems.
The following question is from a viewer. I think I want someone to love and accept first, so that I can relax, rather than love first myself. Even this satsang is wanting you to love and accept first. Oh, it's just a statement.
Okay.
The next question is from the viewer. If I wake up feeling crappy, am I emptying the house?
Maybe. Sounds like it. Sounds like you're purging. Something deep down's coming up. It's making you feel bad. Either that or you're ill. Quite often when we go to sleep at night, we let off a lot of it, density from the day. We let off a lot of pain body because we're not holding it down in any way. And so if we have been doing that, or we could wake up feeling murky, we could wake up feeling not so good. It's best to clear the house. It's best to become sattvic.
I've listened to motivational speakers in the past who recommend building dreams to achieve goals. Is there a problem with this, do you think?
Heck yeah. Look, I've listened to motivational teachers in the past as well, and I used to actually be one. I used to train salespeople how to sell. It's all about creating goals and dreams. It never stops. It never stops. It's just another form of discontentment. Find yourself as pure awareness and be free. If you really want to have goals, but don't put too much energy into thinking about it. All thinking is dreaming. All dreaming is in the way of reality. And really, when we look at setting goals, if we want to set a goal, it only takes a short period of time. Then when it comes time, we execute the plan to get the goal. We don't need to constantly live in our heads, rambling over it, procrastinating it. How about just being free? How about being in the moment and spending as much of your time with reality as you can, rather than with dream, which is never really satisfying? You watch the mind for a while. It desires things to be different constantly. There's no satisfaction in that. It gets attached to things that it thinks its own and then frightened of losing them. There's no joy in that. That's dissatisfaction as well. Get present. It's nice. It's beautiful just to be here. And when you were a little kid, probably under the age of 4 or 5, you were just here. You didn't live in your head yet. And so the practice of meditation, the practice of mindfulness, is really the practice of getting real, reclaiming reality from a dream that you've been lost in. But it's up to you, because whatever you practice, you're going to get good at. If all you practice is thinking, well, that's all you're going to be good at. How about practicing being with what is real? And ultimately, what is real is pure awareness. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here today.